Yes. Hello, my dear friend. Many people think that effective speaking skills are the most important key to convincing other people. Yes, they are partially right at one point, but there is something that is overlooked. Sometimes speaking less can be more impressive and more functional than speaking effectively, speaking incredibly beautifully. In this video, I would like to tell you about the beneficial and powerful features of being silent and sometimes speaking less. I can define talking less and remaining silent in the right place as a white and innocent manipulation technique. Where does it work now? It makes us stronger in the future. Silence is the most fundamental thing. You always stand on the side of talking in bilateral relations and proving something to the other party. Well, that's it. In such a relationship, the other party does not feel that they exist in that relationship. You talk, you explain and say that the better I explain that subject to him, the better that person will know that subject, the more impressed he will be by me. This is never the key. It happened in the 1990s. What actually makes you feel good and affects the other party? If I am the person in front of you, this is how much I care, how much I am listened to in this communication, how seriously the other party takes you. You say it, but I take you seriously, I do this, I do that, no, this is nothing. He is not looking for anything, if you remain silent and listen with all your attention to the other party. Do you know what happens then? The other party feels very valuable and you influence the other party at that moment. People who talk too much start talking about things they shouldn't talk about things they somehow don't know. And in every area you talk, you open that part of your drink and show it to the other party. When you talk about topics that are not full enough, the other party will see you inside. An empty man, an empty woman, up to one side. When it happens like this, you should know this. If you talk too much, the other party starts to deteriorate. But if you talk less and if you mostly choose to remain silent, people think that what they don't see is full, so when creating your personal image here, I definitely have to talk about the subject you don't know. I have to skip everything, that silent ebo's there, incredibly impressive. As I said, people tend to see you as mysterious, charismatic and stronger in such a situation. If he doesn't talk nonsense. At the same time, when you talk less or like this, when you are silent, other people interpret you as a wise person. When you look around, for example, there are documentaries about sex, you can watch them for free on Netflix. There is a documentary that tells like this. He had suggested it in the video before. It is empty. There is a very striking feature in the documentary. There are many things. Sometimes he does a silence fast for a week, and there are days when he doesn't leave his room. Now, as a psychologist, when I don't get tired of his facial expressions, be empty, he is not very mature, be a man chasing his desires. Yes, I observed it because I am a psychologist, but if I were around him and he doesn't speak, he shuts down, he becomes silent, he just listens, I look at you with a smile. You explain excitedly, I try to convince you. But after a while, I see that he doesn't do it. My hand appears to interpret the person who doesn't speak as someone who is incredibly wise, incredibly deep, and sometimes even has supernatural powers. Of course, it is our aim to create such an effect. We don't have a goal like this, but if you want to impress people, if you want to get this wise look, choosing not to talk a little. Sometimes, even just being able to look at it with a smile is very useful. There is something we call therapist silence. This is actually a direction we use to help the other party explain themselves more deeply and open themselves up, of course, for many people. He talks about silence, but when he is clearly exposed to silence, he becomes very uncomfortable. Interestingly, we have such a disorder. Where do these people feel this discomfort? Well, therapy also uses silences. Let's say he tells the other client about an event. In fact, it is a very impressive, troublesome, traumatic event. But it is just like this. He thinks it is not an important event, he reflects it to me that way. I say to him, Behan, how did this event affect you? In return, it didn't affect you. I keep silent at that moment, in this environment. The silence for 5 seconds, 10 seconds, 15 seconds, 30 seconds, and at that moment, discomfort begins to appear because I remained silent. The other party is there is something different here, he should say more things and forces me to explain myself at that moment. In fact, the person who is not willing to explain in the first place feels obliged to open up more. In this way, we can more easily access the feelings he did not express. This sometimes comes out in job interviews. What happens, for example, is that the other party asks you a question, and you give him an answer, and he stays silent. You feel so uncomfortable at that moment that you want to give him more, you want to tell him more, so you can use this method in your daily life, especially when you are with people you want to know. You can use it. I asked a question, and a silence of 15 to 20 seconds will not kill anyone, but it is certain that it will be a more motive for the other party to explain themselves. On the other hand, there is something like this. People who talk a lot about their goals and dreams are generally people who take little action, but these people are few. They talk a lot because they take action, or is it because they talk a lot? In life, they don't move on to the action part. I think the second part is that they don't take action because they talk a lot. People who talk a lot about their dreams, especially when they talk about it, tell the people around them that I will do this, I will go here, I have dreams like this, and even when I tell them, I actually feel a certain sense of excitement. And people who experience this feeling do not feel motivated to live a difficult life. Therefore, we can say that people who talk less about their goals and plans are more successful in real life, to the point of action. Therefore, you also talk less about your goals and dreams. You should talk or thank you. I think this will be useful. In another area where we can use silence effectively, I am not the situation that occurs when someone asks you a question and you will produce a very impressive result with the answer you give to that question. In such a situation, you will answer that question. When you think about it after 15 seconds of silence with a confident stance without taking your eyes off the other party before giving it and say, I think this way about it, it is perceived as much more effective and valuable compared to the previous version, that is, the version where you respond immediately. Therefore, it may be useful to use 15 seconds of silence when giving an answer at the beginning. While trying to impress other people, we can actually say that the words you use are inversely proportional to your score of being taken seriously. The more words I shout when explaining a subject, the more you feel the need to explain yourself, the less value the other party values you, and that means you need to learn to be economical while expressing yourself. If you express it with fewer words and less waste, the other party will value your words and your personality more. Thank you for listening to me. You are a beautiful person. Take care of yourself. See you later.